Hi everyone, welcome to Inain's Forensic Classroom. I'm Inain and I'm here to take you on an exciting journey into the world of forensic science, the real science behind solving crimes, uncovering evidences, and delivering justice. In the last video, we have discussed the history of forensic science in India, ancient China, Middle East, and then we also discussed something about foundations of the forensic pathology and medicine. Now, in this video, we'll talk about the scientific milestones in forensics and some important scientists whose contribution has made a significant change in the field of forensics. Now, when we talk about the scientific milestones in forensics, it began in 1859 with the invention of spectroscopy. So we have a scientist called as Gustav Kirchhoff and Robert Bunsen, who developed the spectroscopy, which is actually the science of analyzing the substances based on the light, like how the substances actually react with the light, and this laid the foundation for chemical analysis in the forensic labs. Then moving on, in 1864, crime scene photography actually came into the picture. Crime scene photography and the concept of photographing crime scenes began to take shape in 1864, which actually allowed us for permanent visual documentation of evidence. Moving on to 1879, there was a scientist called as Alphonse Bertillon, who was actually a French criminologist, and he introduced the anthropometry. Anthropometry, which actually is a system to identify the people using their body measurements. So although eventually it was replaced, it marked the beginning of the biometric identification. In 18th and 19th century, when the photography and fingerprinting were not yet in use, we had we were identifying people and tracking them through the justice system, which was given by Alphonse Bertillon, who was a French criminologist, and he introduced anthropometry. This method actually used precise physical measurements. For example, what is the length of the head, what is the size of the foot, or the arm span, which actually was used to identify individuals uniquely. And it became very popular in Europe and United States, especially in prisons. But however, this system anthropometry had some serious flaws. So what happened in 1903 at the Leavenworth prison in Kansas, they had a man named as William West. And William West, when was admitted to the prisons in Kansas, shockingly, there was already a different inmate with the same name and nearly identical measurements who was already present in the prison. So, in right now, the anthropometry would not be very useful when we have the people with the same name and with the same identical measurements. So what happened was this case actually discredited the Bertillon system, and then it made way for the rise of the fingerprint identification. Then in 1896 came the fingerprint classification. So the Bertillon actually had used fingerprints in his class in the Bertillonian system. He didn't have a good system to catalog them. So that actually changed in 1894 when we have Dr. Juan Vucetich, Juan Vucetich, who was working with the La Plata police in Argentina, and he created a method to classify fingerprints into over a million primary categories, and unfortunately his work also remained largely unknown in Europe for a very long time. Meanwhile, there were Sir William Herschel. We have talked about them in the last video. Sir William Herschel, who was in India, and Henry Fuld, who was a Scottish doctor. They also explored fingerprints for identification, but at the end it was Sir Edward Richard Henry who in 1901 developed the Henry classification system of fingerprints. Classification system of fingerprints, which actually is still in use today for fingerprint cataloging and retrieval. Then around 1900, blood typing was discovered by Karl Landsteiner. Karl Landsteiner discovered blood typing, and he discovered that human blood actually came in different types, which led to the ABO blood grouping system. And this discovery paved the way for identifying other blood antigen systems also. For example, we have RH system, MNSS system, and we have Lewis system. Also, we have white blood cell antigens. So these findings were very crucial for forensic blood typing, and it helped to differentiate between individuals based on their blood. This was very vital for forensic serology and matching blood at the crime scenes. Now we will talk about some modern forensic science breakthroughs. In 1904, there was given Locard's principle of exchange by Dr. Edmond Locard, who was a French forensic scientist, and he proposed the famous Locard's exchange principle. Every contact leaves a trace. Dr. Edmond Locard said every contact leaves a trace. We will be discussing about this in detail when we will read about the basic principles in the forensic science. So that time I'll give you a detailed overview of this exchange principle. So this principle became the foundation of trace evidence analysis. Then in 1922 came mass spectroscopy, which was invented spectrometry, which was invented by Francis Aston. Uh, so mass spectrometer is basically a device that helps identify chemical substances by their mass, which actually is a game changer in toxicology and drug testing. Then in 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick, they discovered the double helix structure of DNA, which laid the groundwork for the genetic forensic system. In 1984 came Sir Alec Jeffreys, who developed the first method of forensic DNA fingerprinting, which actually was a revolutionary breakthrough that enabled personal identification from the biological materials. Although he called it DNA fingerprinting, but the name was a bit misleading. It was actually far more accurate than the traditional fingerprinting. In 1985, Dr. Carey Mullis invented PCR, which stands for polymerase chain reaction, and it's a method to replicate the tiny amounts of DNA in the lab. This also allowed forensic scientists to analyze even trace amounts of DNA evidence, and for this discovery, he also received the 1993 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So today, many professional forensic organizations support scientists with research journals, networking opportunities, conferences, and training. Now, when we talk about the scientist in detail, please take a note of all of these keywords that I am writing down here. It will help you in your exams. Now, the first scientist that we talk about is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was from 1859 to 1930, and he popularized the scientific crime detection methods through his fictional character Sherlock Holmes. He gave Sherlock Holmes. Now talking about another scientist, which is Matthew Orfila. Matthew Orfila is the father of modern toxicology, and he developed methods for analysis of poisons from the year 1787 to 1853. He is the father of modern toxicology. Then from the year 1853 to 1914, we have Alfonso Bertillon. Bertillon, who developed the system of personal identification, which we call as anthropometry. And it was the system of personal identification using personal measurements, physical measurements. Then from the year 1822 to 1911, Sir Francis Galton studied the fingerprints to seek out the hereditary traits, and he listed the three most important fingerprints, which is arches, whorls, and loops. Then from the year 1887 to 1953, we have a scientist, Leone Lattice. Who devised the procedure to group dried blood stains into A, B, OB, and O and AB. So he classified dried blood groups. Then from the year 1891 to 1955 came Calvin Goddard, who was a pioneer in the forensic ballistics, and he developed the comparison microscope. Comparison microscope actually is there are two microscopes that are connected via an optical bridge, and it allows us for the side-by-side analysis of bullets and cartridges, tool marks, hair, and other fiber analysis. Moving on from the year 1853 to 1914, Albert S. Osborne, who also is known as the father of question document examination, he published his book called as Question Documents. From the year 1822 to 1911, Dr. Edmund Locard gave his exchange principle, and he is known as the Sherlock Holmes of the France. From the year 1847 to 1915 came Hans Gross, who is known as the founding father of criminal profiling. And he started the Institute of Criminology of Graz. In the year 1868 to 1943 came Karl Landsteiner. As discussed before, he was an Austrian biologist and immunologist who distinguished the blood groups. Then at last we have in the year 1984 Alec Jeffreys, who developed the technique of DNA fingerprinting. So in the next video, we'll discuss about the principles of forensic science. Till then, if you found this video interesting, give it a like, share it with your fellow forensic enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to Inain's Forensic Classroom. If you have any questions, suggestions, or curious topics that you want me to cover, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep observing, keep questioning, and remember, every clue tells a story. Bye-bye.